bunch of fetid hippies. This week's video is a sad tale of woe and drama and Shakespearean tragedy and all that fun stuff. She's a goner. I put an engine in this van back in January or February of this year, 2024, and was doing all right. About 2 months ago, a month ago or something, I put a radiator in it because it was weeping a little bit, but it's been doing fine. Code-free, in fact. Yeah, quite happy. Customer is very happy with this van and has an emotional bond as one generates for your van. Even a sexual relationship amongst adult vans. Only vans. I was actually going to call the company, instead of Promaster's Only Vans, which I think is a pretty good pun on OnlyFans, but I figured I'd be getting Chevy and Ford people in here all the time, and I didn't want that. Let's move on. I'm going to show you the steps I went through to diagnose it because I filmed it for the customer, but it's definitely definitive for a variety of reasons, and I don't know, this may help you. So the story is he went to visit somebody in, I believe, upstate New York or something like that, a good 300-400 miles away, and on the way back, 5 miles from home, 10 miles from home, he noticed smoke coming out of the back of it, pulled it over, and obviously it was hot. He let it cool, it refused to start. He put some coolant in it, the coolant was pouring out, and I'll show you where and why. Because he's a super nice guy, and I feel just kind of bad in that karmic sense, I'm gonna have him buy an engine, and he and I will put it in together. And with the two of us now I wouldn't do that for just anybody. Not only wouldn't I do that, I wouldn't even take money to do that just for anybody. But he's a good guy, and it's kind of a sad story, and he relies on this thing. But more importantly, it's not as altruistic as it sounds. Because I've had this out within a year, all the cranky bolts that I have to fight with are going to come out just fine. Because I anti-seize them when I put them back in. Particularly, I'm talking about stuff around the exhaust and a few other bitchy fasteners that are hard to get to or crusty. All the stuff in the front that generally can get a little crusty with the bumper and the radiator support and all that. That's all been anti-seized and it'll come right out. With two of us doing it, we can do this swap in 3 days without killing ourselves. Ooh, mail is here. All right, let's look at this thing and then I'll have a conclusion. Okay, fun with forensics. Let's see if this will show. If I keep my head. Okay, see that? If I can zoom in. I'll try. Oh, that's not so bad. Hell, I can zoom in great. Where's what I'm looking for? Where's the freaking mirror? There it is. Okay. My head there. Okay. Well, we can see what's going on there. That hose is split. Not a problem. That hose. Okay. That hose runs around the back of the engine. It carries water to the. It eventually winds up at one of these two. And all that hose, the split is on the bottom and the water would be pouring down. So that's not what I'm concerned about. What I'm concerned about is I pull this intake off and I find, and if you go look at the bottom of the intake manifold, there's clearly water getting into 5 of the 6 intake runners. Now, the van has a code just for cylinder 3 misfire. That's cylinder 3. But water, some water has gotten in. Now, how did it get in? Well, it didn't get in there. That's the air intake. And it didn't get in from the air intake 2 because this is dry and clean. So that water came from the lower and worked its way up. How can that happen? I suppose a massively, I wonder if I can put my head such a way, make the camera do the work. Well, you wouldn't see it anyway. But the next step is to pull the 3 rear and see if the plugs are wet with coolant, and that would tell me that coolant got into the chamber, and that's almost the kiss of death. All right, this is number 3 coil as I've pulled it. It's got oil on it because it's leaking at the seal, but that's not totally abnormal. The coil itself isn't saturated, and the coil connector in there isn't wet. So that's number 3. Let's see what the plug looks like. All right, plug number 3. Plenty of oil because it's been leaking oil, but if you look at the electrode, it is dry and looks okay. Let's pull the other 2 in the back. Plug number 5. Come on. There you go. Looks fine. Oily, but the electrode is fine. All right, this is cylinder 3. There's cylinder 5. Cylinder 1. For the hell of it, this is cylinder number 2. All right, so we're in number 3 here, and I'm pretty sure I'm at top dead center or somewhere near it. Let's see what she does. I hear a gurgle. All right, we're in number 3 here. Got a little pressure in it. All right, I'm not completely done, but I'm not happy. I'll show you why. So here we have 60 pounds of air. Let's put in 100 pounds of air. Oh, come on. Okay, I guess it doesn't matter. 65 pounds of air is going here into number 2 there. And if I go back here to our split hose, which you probably won't see, but yep. I'm peeling the hose open, and if I put my hand over it, I hear it coming out the bottle behind me. Fuck. So I'm into number 3 in the back there, and it doesn't really matter where I am because the results are conclusive. So I'm gonna I got 60 pounds of air going in. Let's put 70 pounds. There's 70 pounds of air going in, and the cylinder is holding 12 pounds or whatever. It doesn't really matter because, and it's probably going out an exhaust valve. I don't know where it is in its cycle, but regardless, here's the important part. If I go over here and I pinch this hose, I can feel the air coming out of it, and if I pinch it, sounds like a bong hit because the head gasket is blown and it's putting that air pressure into the cooling system. So I pull the dipstick here and I run my finger in it and I look at it, and I mean it looks okay, but let's drop this oil and see what comes out. Oops. That is the milkshake. And this, kids, is what oil with water in it looks like, in case you've never seen it. Look at that, it's beautiful, but it's not beautiful. Oh. It is a milkshake of despair and doom. Oh, that sucks. All right, kids, you want to see the real kiss of death? Unfortunately, this would be a way for you to tell that this engine is, even if it could be saved, it probably isn't worth saving. Stop fucking this up. This is your real kiss of death here. Where's my finger? There's my finger. There you go. See that? Get the focus. That is melted lower intake. And while you'll see additional evidence here of melted. And granted, the gaskets survived and the thing was still sealing. I don't know if you can see in here. Probably you can't. More, yeah, you kind of can. Yeah, there you go. Come on, focus. There you go. More melted plastic. Yeah. And it'll be the same on the other bank of cylinders as well. There's no coming back from that. Well, there's coming back from that, I suppose, but although that manifold may still actually work, but the fact that it got hot enough, the head got hot enough to melt plastic, is why all the head gaskets are lifted in this bad boy. Also, it's also why it was puking oil out. And when I first initially got here, it had actually leaked oil out from under the cap, and the cap was perfectly tight, which tells you that that bad things were happening, and so on. All right, well, that's all the raw data. So what do we got to go on? Well, we got low compression on multiple cylinders, and we've got codes for single and multiple cylinder misfires. We've got water in the oil. We've got air coming out of the reservoir bottle when you put air into the cylinders, and literally none of the cylinders, cylinders on both sides of the head are putting pressure. I mean, you can hear it sounds like a bong hit. And the final one is we've got melted lower intake manifold. The important thing from my perspective is that in theory, I could take this engine out, take both heads off of it, make sure that the block deck is straight, tank the block to get all the water and crap out of it, mill the heads or otherwise replace the heads, replace the gaskets, put it all back together. Should you do that? Well, there's extenuating circumstances. What if you're a poor hillbilly and doing the labor yourself, so it's essentially free? Then, hell yeah, for two $12 head gaskets, you can be back in business. I would definitely consider doing something like that. If you're going to rely on this vehicle, I would probably caution that once the head is warped enough to lift the gasket, you're going to be chasing head gasket failures from now till kingdom come, because it ain't going to flatten itself out, and it's not the head gasket itself that ever fails, it's something makes the head gasket fail, which is the warping of the block or the head or the whatever. Also, with water slung in the whole oiling system, granted, it's not like it was running on water for very long, but I don't know, I don't feel too great about it. Now, another important point about why I'm going to go ahead and throw an engine in this thing is that all the stuff I upgraded a year ago is still good. The rockers and lifters are still basically the new upgraded ones. The oil cooler is still the Dorman aluminum one. It's still good. What else I got in it? I'll replace the gaskets. I mean, it had other upgrades along the way. I mean, it's got a new radiator. It's got a new coolant bottle. All the hoses are good. It'll need that one. And I may upgrade some other things. But basically, the aluminum crossover tube in the front, the aluminum thermostat housing, and so forth. Although I may change the thermostat. Well, I'll monitor the thermostat itself when I put the new engine in. But at any rate, that's $700 worth of parts, $800 worth of parts that one would have to buy when buying a used engine and upgrading it. We have those parts, so if I donate my labor and he donates his labor, the customer, and helps me, we can do this in a couple of 3 days, and all I'm really out is a set of gaskets and the cost of a used engine. I'll do the same thing. I'll buy an engine from LKQ, and we won't spend more than $1,000 on an engine. All right, well, that sums up that. Bigger and more exciting and more helpful videos will be coming soon. I got a few big projects going on before the first of the year and even after. And I understand. I'm always here. It's dumb. I'm always here. All right, love you. Mwah.